Okay, well, hello everybody. It's 3:01, so let's go ahead and get started today. Welcome to the Title IX committee meeting for April. Got an action-packed agenda today. Not really, a whole lot of decision making, but a couple of important decision making things. So first of all, thank you all for coming, and wanted to see if everybody had a chance to look over the minutes that were posted. Um, so if you haven't, they're up on the screen, scrolling a little bit. Um, if you have had a chance to read them, does anybody have any comments or corrections for those minutes? Okay, well, I do. So I'll go ahead and just jump right in with that. In the minutes, under the section number 5, where it says Title IX survey update, it says at the very last sentence, hopefully the resources subcommittee will present the proposed drafted survey to the full board within the next few months. I think that should say, hopefully the Title IX committee will present the proposed draft survey. It's just like a little semantic there, but our committee is charged with this task, so we would be the committee that brings that forward. So one last chance for anybody to add anything on the minutes. If you want to just put it in the chat, for later in case you forget, then we'll just go ahead and move on. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jarrell.
Thank you, Ms. Craven. So I am going to briefly talk about a couple of Title IX updates. And so one is at the federal level. So at the last Title IX committee meeting, I discussed the Department of Education's or President Biden's executive order from March 8th, 2021, guaranteeing an educational environment free from sex discrimination, which tasked and required the Department of Education to review and reconsider all existing regulations, orders, guidance documents, policies, and any other similar agency actions, which also include the 2020 Trump amendments to the Department of Education's Title IX regulations. Well, the update is that on April 6th, the U.S. Department of Education released a press release and a letter in response to President Biden's March 8th, 2021 executive order. And the Department of Education outlined a couple points of how they will comply with President Biden's order from March 8th. And I just wanted to give a brief update on what those points were. So the first is that the Department of Education announced that they would have a comprehensive review of the Department of Education's regulations that implement Title IX. So that is their first step in regards to complying with Biden's executive order. They will review all of their policies, procedures, regulations, and all of those pieces to comply with and be in line with President Biden's executive order. The next piece is that they will have upcoming public hearings because they want to hear from interested parties, schools, teachers, faculty, students, everyone that's going to be impacted by what Title IX does. So that's their second step. The third step that they announced is a forthcoming question and answer sub-regulatory guidance. And so what that will do is provide us as local districts, such as New Hanover County Schools, is that they will release a Q&A, which is essentially guidance telling us how we should operate until there are new regulations. And so that should be forthcoming in a few months, according to the announcement in the letter from the Department of Education. The last thing that they announced was that there would be a notice of proposed rulemaking. What that means is that the Department of Education will take these steps to update the Department of Department of Education regulations. Um, as we all know, in August of 2020, the Trump regulations went into effect after 2 years of notice proposed rulemaking and comments. So the Department of Education is telling us that they will take additional steps in the future as well. So all that to say is that at the federal level, with a new president, new policies and procedures are in place, and we will be on the lookout for those moving forward. Another update that I have is regarding the state level, North Carolina, particularly a couple of bills that have been introduced. One of those bills does impact us, particularly the work that we have done here in the Title IX committee. At the last meeting, I believe it was, we or I um, spoke about the extracurricular policies, particularly related to sports, and how at the high school level, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association has a process for transgender athletes to submit a request to participate in a particular sport that they identify with. At the middle school level, there was no policy or practice for New Hanover County schools. Um, so I suggested implementing a line in the extracurricular policy that's being reviewed at the at the policy committee, to state that in middle school, individuals can participate in this on the team that they identify with based on their gender. That was a recommendation. About a week or two after that, the North Carolina House um, put out a bill called HB 358, which is the Save Women's Sports Act. And what that essentially says is that all athletic teams for middle and secondary school students participating in interscholastic or intramural athletic activities conducted by a public school unit shall be expressly designated as either male, female, or girls, or co-ed or mixed. Also, it states that athletic teams or sports designated for females, women, or girls shall not be open to students of the male sex. And sex will be recognized based solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. So that's a synopsis of what the bill says. What that means for New Hanover County Schools is that we have to wait and see if this bill becomes a law. If it does, then it will impact our middle school students' ability, transgender students, to participate um, on the basis of their gender identity. This bill will prevent that. So we are aware in New Hanover County Schools, and we will be on the lookout for any updates at the state level. And I do see Leslie, your hand. I'll allow a comment after one moment. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay. So the next update was regarding a North Carolina transgender bill on medical interventions. It's the Youth Health Protection Act, and it's Senate Bill 514. It doesn't impact New Hanover County schools in great detail, but it essentially is, giving North Carolina's hand on how um, they will be moving forward when it comes to transgender persons, particularly students. And it's essentially a bill that's not allowing students to seek medical treatment that affirms their gender identity. And so those are two bills that are, operating, working way through North Carolina right now. I just want to provide those updates to let you all know that we are aware of them, particularly when it comes to extracurricular activities and sports. And we will update as those bills become law or not. So I did want to allow Ms. Cohen, I did see your hand, to take the floor and ask a question if you had one.
So I've been really involved in these three bills at the state level involving transgender rights, and especially as they apply, as Title IX applies. And I would strongly encourage this committee and the school board to move forward as if these bills are not happening. The one place that a similar bill has been passed and attempted to be implemented is, I believe, Idaho. The courts have ruled, have placed an injunction that it cannot be enacted until it's played out in the courts. The expectation in North Carolina of everybody involved is if these bills make it to the floor, that they will pass, that they will then be vetoed by the governor, and that there are enough votes to uphold the veto. So it is unlikely that these bills will actually be enacted. And even if they are, then there are lawsuits already drawn up and ready to be filed. So right now, our trans students really need a win. Already with just these bills being introduced, the calls to crisis centers are up. Um, our trans children are under a lot of duress, and it would mean a lot for New Hanover County Schools to show our support and to go ahead and pass this middle school athletics policy at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. So, yeah, so those are pieces that we'll have to have discussions outside of the committee. Um, as we said last time, what the recommendation was. So that will be for the board to have those discussions. Um, but I definitely hear and understand, and the board will make those determinations moving forward at the policy level.
I just think as a committee, especially given what's expected from the federal level on Title IX and gender expression, that we should lend our support to going ahead. I know we don't have the power to do it, but we should lend our support to going ahead with those policy changes.
Okay, I'm on the policy committee too, Leslie, so I have that noted to talk about that. I think it's on for first reading next Tuesday. So I don't think it's second reading. I think it's first reading. So yeah, so it's ready to come before the whole board for discussion.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay.
So moving forward with the last updates, I just want to take some time to um, remind everyone about some of the things in New Hanover County Schools that we've been doing, particularly regarding um, providing information to our students to equip them to keep themselves safe, in addition to the changes that we've made at the central office level, um, through some of the training programs that we've created. And so, of course, as a reminder, we have Darkness to Light training. Darkness to Light is all staff programming that they receive that addresses education and prevention of child sexual abuse, other forms of abuse, and mandated reporting via Darkness to Light, which is a 2-hour training that's required once every other year. So that's recently been rolled out, and the program's been going really well. And we have, at this point, I don't remember the exact number, and I don't want to guess in case I'm wrong, but it is definitely in the thousands when it comes to employees that have been trained.
Um, Maybe Kristen could jump in. Do you have any like rough estimates for us, Kristen?
I don't have the exact number. It's close to 3,000. It's around 3,000.
Okay.
But it's pretty much at this point every employee. And then as employees are hired, they have a few months to complete it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and thank you, Kristen. And so, in addition to Darkness to Light, we have the Hanover County Schools has just contracted with another third party to provide additional training specific to Title IX, Title IX reporting. And so, this training is through Institutional Compliance Solutions, which is based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. It should be about a 15-20 minute training for all district staff. We're also looking at having that rolled out for substitutes and also volunteers as well. But we're hoping to have that rolled out the summer, early fall of this year, and that'll be an additional layer of training and reporting that our employees will have to ensure that we know what the procedures are when certain incidents, sexual in nature, do occur. In addition to staff training, we also have programming for our students. And so, as a reminder, we have Safer Smarter Kids, which is for our elementary students. And that is an abuse prevention curriculum designed for pre-K and elementary age children. The program uses developmentally appropriate information to arm children with the tools and language that they need to better protect themselves from abuse. And each grade has level has 7 to 10 lessons. Now we were going to roll this out earlier, however, COVID and the different plans that we've been on has delayed the rollout of this program, but we're still on track to have this rolled out in the fall 2021. So our elementary students will get that program. In addition to elementary students, we have shifting boundaries for middle school. And this is an evidence informed intervention used to raise awareness and prevent harassment and bullying. The program is a 4 session program that was developed for middle school students to set the stage for healthy relationships and social interactions. So far, there's been about 3,000 students trained since the launch in 2020. So that's a middle school program that we have called Shifting Boundaries. And the last program that we have for our students is called Bringing in the Bystander. And this is for high school, and it is administered through the health and PE classes. And so this program encourages students to advocate for themselves and others in prevention of sexual and interpersonal violence and harassment. Students learn to identify problem situations and learn practical skills for safe and effective intervention. And so this program was launched during COVID. It was launched in the spring of 2021 in January. So this has been rolled out and it's being facilitated through Coastal Horizons, and it's been going really well in our high school. So those are some things that we're doing to make sure that our staff and students are prepared and keeping themselves safe um, moving forward.
And Terrell, I just wanted to butt in for a minute on that. I know that we have heard this, like 5 times now at this committee level and in front of the board several times, but I just don't think that we can hear it enough. And then new people as they're tuning in to listen to this committee, hopefully that we will be getting this message out, to the community, to parents, to employees, to students, that we do have a lot of resources that are being that have been developed and are being rolled out. So if you think that we're being redundant, then please bear with, because the more times we hear it, the more people will have a chance to understand the positive direction that we're heading.
Thank you, Ms. Craven. So
Did you mention about the training that the board had, the responsible people training?
I did not. I did not mention that training. So the board and certain central office personnel did go through training last week through that same third-party ICS, Institutional Compliance Solutions, regarding their roles as decision makers and appeal persons in our Title IX process. Our Title IX process has not been tested to a certain extent due to COVID and less students in the buildings. There have not been as many Title IX behavioral issues that have occurred. But nonetheless, the board did go through this training recently. And I guess I'll let you, Ms. Cravel, speak a little bit about that, since that group ICS will
Okay.
be doing the responsible employee training. What was your thoughts as a board member
The
going through that training?
Yeah, I thought it was good training. It was very thorough. And the one thing about it is that we as board members are not allowed to sit in on a hearing unless we have had that training. So 6 out of the 7 of us were able to attend that. And it was very thorough, went through a lot of detail, and it was basically just talking about hearings and appeals for the sexual harassment and sexual assault, bullying kind of things. So Stephanie Walker, did you want to chime in and give any of your thoughts on that too?
No, I just would add that it was actually very good to have a process. I know that they had some forms for us to fill out to kind of give us a roadmap of what we could do, as in our roles, for that purpose. And I did appreciate that. I'm going to print those out and keep them in my folder just in case. Hopefully we won't ever have to hear any Title IX, cases, but in case we are prepared. So thank you for letting me say.
And I'm particularly excited about that group because not only are they attorneys there, but they're also practitioners. So it's hard to find attorneys that are also practitioners in the area of Title IX. I'm one of those rare persons, but there's not many of us out there. So I'm particularly excited about that group and the partnership that we have moving forward to help continue to set the foundation in this district here.
The other thing I like too, when you're talking about the credentials of our trainers, that one of the lawyers, her husband is a school administrator and charged with doing investigations. So she is able to hear some of the real life things that are happening, so that they can always be adjusting their training and bringing forth, new issues to legislators and other people. So I thought that was kind of good too.
Yeah. So they are currently developing our responsible employee training as Title IX policies in New Hampshire County Schools states all employees are quote unquote responsible employees, which means that anytime they hear incidents of sexual harassment, it must be reported to the Title IX coordinator. So this training is not mandatory, but I thought it was very important for us to carry out our roles as responsible employees, myself included, and all other individuals, including board members, have this responsibility. So that's why we've contracted with that group to get the responsible employee training rolled out in the very near future. So they should be providing their first draft of the training with the audio and the slides and all those pieces together. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, it should come in the next week or two. So moving forward, unless Ms. Walker, Ms. Crable have any other pieces to share, we will move forward to the Title IX survey. So give me one moment as I get that prepared. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I'll share it because I do want to do the question. Okay, so today we will present the final draft of the Title IX committee survey that the subcommittee, the resources subcommittee, has been working on for the past few months. And so this is the final version that came from the subcommittee level. It's currently being presented to the Title IX committee as a whole. And if approved, today's Title IX committee as a whole, this recommendation will be provided to the board from the committee um, for the board to vote and do whatever processes and procedures that they need to do to make sure that we can release it hopefully in the fall of 2021. So this,
I just wanted to jump in that what you're seeing on the screen right now is not what the survey looks like. The survey is actually in a Google or form that, like some of the things we talked about before, where, if yes on 6, do this, it automatically does that for you. So all those little mini things that you would be used to seeing, it, it is in the survey that is in the Google form. So this is just the words taken out, of the survey and put into questions. So just so you'll know that.
right, this is just the substantive parts of the survey, not formatted like it would. So to begin with, as we stated last meeting, there will be two versions of the survey, one for middle school students and one for high school students. The questions are the same, but the reason why we decided to have two different surveys is for wording purposes to capture the time period that a student is in middle school or high school. We thought it was easier to explain that to the student by just having two different surveys, one for high school, one for middle school. And so that's the background for the survey themselves. So the survey will start off with the introduction, and this is the language here. I won't read it over the meeting here, but this was posted in advance. I'm hoping that everyone had a chance to review. And if there's any questions or feedback, feel free to interject. So moving forward, we have a set of preliminary questions to talk about what school the person attends. It will be broken down by middle, high school. I see your hand, Ms. Cohen. You can go ahead.
I'm just wondering if answers are required on all questions.
So they're not required on all questions, being mindful of how these can be triggering. Students do have the option to stop whenever they want to. They don't have to necessarily complete the survey if they are triggered or have some type of emotional reaction. Or we don't want to put them in a situation where they're forced to go through this process without.
But Leslie, is your question more that, let's say I didn't want to answer question one, well, not that, yeah, I didn't want to answer question one. Can I still go on to question two?
Exactly.
Yes, and so that is, it is set up that way so that you just answer, you go through and you answer what you want. And hopefully, kids will answer them all, but we don't want we don't want it to stop because you're having some anxiety over a question or you just don't want to answer it. No anxiety, you're just not doing it. Okay.
Right. So moving forward, these are the preliminary questions, asking what school do you attend based on your high school or middle school level, what grade, and also what gender. Jenna Young was able to supply me with some of the um, responses, the multiple choice responses. We did not leave this open-ended, and we had some technical issues with open-ended questions in the middle of uh, multiple choice questions. So this is the best that we could do to try to capture the data in the best, easiest format possible for us to actually review it moving forward. But it is this information was provided by Ms. Jenny Young in consultation with not Coastal Horizons. I forgot the name of the group. I'm sorry, my mind just went blank. Nonetheless, those are the questions for the preliminary stage of the survey. So moving forward, Ms. Walker, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask, did we talk about filling out the race and ethnicity part too, or did we just decide
Yeah,
not to?
so that will be multiple choice as well,
Okay.
but for just today, I just didn't put those parts in there, but it will be your standard race, ethnicity options, multiple choice options there.
And the choices that we gave in question number 3, just as a reminder to the group, was from a survey that Jenna's group had done. I think it was it the EYES program? But I'm sorry that I don't remember. But they're the same words we've already used with students in previous surveys, so that we're not having new words.
Correct, and we also had them reviewed again to make sure that they were still inclusive, and the answer was yes. We don't want to send any groups out there. So moving forward to the sexual harassment portion of the survey, as I stated, the survey will have a sexual harassment piece and a um, gender discrimination piece. And these are the definitions that we came up with for the sexual harassment piece, the types of behaviors we're trying to capture here.
And they will be, again, on that Google sheet. They're not so bunched up with the little markers. They are spread out so that kids can actually read that.
Right. And the reason why you don't have the Google sheet here, the Google form, is because it's not as easy to show everyone unless you're taking the actual survey. And so technically, it just was a little bit difficult. So the questions themselves, of course, asked during your middle high school years, have you experienced behavior that be considered sexual harassment? Then had a multiple choice about the number of times there. Moving forward, number 6, it was a two-part based on question 5. If you did experience sexual harassment, did you tell a trusted adult that worked for New Henry County Schools about the sexual harassment? Yes, no, or never been sexually harassed. Moving forward with a two-part question off of number 5 as well. If you answered yes, how comfortable were you with the response by New Henry County Schools? That's trying to judge how individuals felt about our processes. Number 8, if you have answered no to question number 6, why did you not report the behavior? And so we have, in this particular question, it will allow individuals to mark as many as they want to. It's not just a mark one only. You can select any of these responses as you wish. And so these answers came from another school district's survey as well about certain same behavior. And theirs were, that other school districts was open ended. And so when they received that feedback from their students, they kind of essentially categorize them into these different answers here based on the frequency of the responses by the students. And so because ours is multiple choice, we wanted to select all, have the option to select all available options. And we also included another option, which is, oh, I didn't tell a trusted adult that worked for New Hanover County Schools because they told an adult outside of New Hanover County Schools. So we wanted to be able to see if there was a distinction between who they reported it to, one for New Hanover County Schools, or maybe they still told a trusted adult, but they just didn't tell us at the school system. So moving forward, during your middle high school years, have you engaged in behavior that could be considered sexual harassment? This question was included because we wanted to gauge the level of our students participating in these behaviors to have another data point moving forward. So number 10, if you answered yes to question 9, how often did you engage in behavior that could be considered sexual harassment? Just a second part to that first question there, the previous question. Number 11, during your middle school, high school years, have you witnessed behavior that could be considered sexual harassment? So this is really getting at the bystander. Um, and so ask them the frequency up to at least weekly. And then if you have witnessed behavior that could be considered sexual harassment during your middle school years or high school years, what was your response? And this is another answer that they'll be able to select all that apply because sometimes a bystander can have multiple different options for how they support or not support a colleague if they witness certain behaviors. So that is the end of the portion that speaks to sexual harassment. And so what we do next is still one survey, but then it switches to gender-based harassment. And so these are the definitions for gender-based harassment in our policies here. So it'll give an overview of what those behaviors are as a preview to the students before answering the questions. And essentially, the questions are the exact same for gender-based harassment as they are for sexual harassment. It's just that they state gender-based harassment. And so I won't go through the questions because we just did that for sexual harassment. But they're the exact same, just substituting the word sexual harassment for gender-based harassment.
And just to jump in there for a minute, the reason that we did that, the reason that the resource committee wanted to do that was if we put both categories together, then we wouldn't be able to ascertain the difference between, did we have more sexual harassment or did we have more gender discrimination? So it may seem like the duplication of effort, but the resource subcommittee really felt it was important to delineate so that we could actually develop appropriate plans and programming from that. So just wanted to clarify.
Yes, it's going to be able to help us tease out that data when it comes back.
Yeah. Tease out, good word.
So I will just scroll to the bottom here of these questions so you can see how we end the survey with resources. And it does not look pretty here, but it will be better when it's actually in the form of the survey. So essentially, it's just a little wording here that talks about where they can get resources and how New Hanover County Schools encourages students to utilize those resources when needed. But we particularly want to include in here information that students can speak with their school counselors if need be as a result of participating in the survey. And then there will also be links as well for students to be able to access additional information on the Title IX website and other websites as well. So that is the end of the survey. And so if there are not any other, go ahead, Ms. Craven, I'm sorry.
Ms. Crable's raising her hand. And again, just to reiterate to the folks on the larger team that have not been a part of the resource team, and for people who are listening today, this is just a survey. This is not a reporting tool. So everything in here is it's confidential. So if a student feels the need after taking this survey to actually report something, then that is what we would encourage them to do. So just so we know that this is a survey to just get a pulse on where we are. This is not meant to be a reporting mechanism.
Correct. Ms. Walker, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add too that I know we've set the survey up to be an opt-out survey. And I know that we have a policy coming up that addresses student surveys. I had some people ask me questions about that. I don't think that the policy, I mean, Ms. Crable will probably be able to tell us more, is going to affect this survey. But I thought it was important to note that we did plan for it to be an opt-out survey.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That was next on my list.
Oh.
That's okay. That you've done your homework. You've read. Yes. So at our last policy committee meeting, policy 4720, which is surveys, did come up, and we talked at length about whether surveys in general should be opt-in or opt-out. And so we are going to be bringing forth to the board for reading that we want surveys to be opt-out, so that we have a chance to get as broad of data, a broad of people, data that we can. But again, that is up to the whole entire board to decide. But that was the intent of the resource subcommittee, was to have this be an opt-out survey. Good point.
Right. So the opt-out will be the recommendation from the committee. So as we were working our way through, the subcommittee does the legwork, presents the substantive final draft to the Title IX committee. Title IX committee votes up or down, yes or no, for the recommendation to the board. Once the board receives the Title IX committee version, it's up to the board to adopt, vote, however they choose, as the board does for any other matter. So actually what we're going to do next is we're going to vote to go ahead and get this recommendation to the board if it passes the majority vote. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this a link into the chat here and allow everyone who's on the actual Title IX committee. If you're not on Title IX committee, don't vote. And so I'm going to paste this form into the chat and allow for a few minutes for individuals to take the one question survey from the Title IX committee level, to determine if the recommendation from the resources subcommittee will be the recommendation from the Title IX committee. So does everyone see this form here in the chat that I just entered?
I think Leslie had a question, Mr. Lewis.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. One really quick question. I know we are giving them where to go if they now, having done this, want to report. Is that going to be a link? I certainly hope that it is, because I think if I were a child who had just filled this out and realized, oh my goodness, I really should report this, that we want to make that as easy as possible. Can that be a link at the bottom of the form?
Yeah, so we are including the links to the website and to the form. There are some technical pieces there that I think might not be a live go-to type of thing. But we can also work, because this is not being rolled out into the fall. So the decision to submit it, or the decision to release it, can be made today from the committee. But there's still some additional steps that we need to plan. So I think it would be best if we have that link in there. We also have some paper forms as well at the schools that individuals will be able to utilize.
So, Drell, can I add?
Yes.
I think we talked about in the subcommittee too, to have like beta testing on this form. Yeah, you might know more, Ms. Crable, if you want to just talk to that, as I know we talked about that being an important part of this, just trying it out to see, how it was when you actually took it.
Yeah, and that's what we had planned after we got the survey approved, that we really want to move forward with it, and we would do that beta testing with us, and then perhaps just other people in the system who just can help us practice.
Right. But today we definitely want to make sure we get the substantive questions approved and finalized. So I'm going to allow a few moments for everyone who is a Title IX committee member to utilize this Google form to vote up or down on this final version that we presented today for the Title IX committee survey.
So I'm gonna look at the list and see who we have just attending, who we value you being here, but I don't see anybody in here who's not supposed to be. I mean, not supposed to be, who's not a voting member. Wait, Robbie McGee. He's a member? Okay, sorry, Robbie.
Okay, it looks like I have everybody, but I'll allow 1 or 2 more minutes just in case there's some other submissions that might come through. So
We have 19 people.
So for the number of responses that I have 10, but there's still some rolling in currently, so 11. So I'll give it a few more moments here.
If you have any last minute questions, then just, go ahead and share or ask. Either put them in the chat or ask them out loud. I don't see any questions now. Jarrell's gathering all the data.
So it looks like the responses have slowed down and there are not any more coming in. So I'll just share my screen really quickly to show the responses. Give me 1 second.
Okay, you need a choice. So you don't get a response from us three.
Okay, thank you.
Yay.
So based on the 12 responses that we have here of Title IX committee members, majority have agreed to release this version of the Title IX committee survey to the board for further adoption and release in 2021, fall 2021. So
Jarrell, I didn't bring with me the official list. Are there 12 people on our Title IX committee? Like what?
There's more than 12 people on our Title IX committee. So every person on the committee that we have registered on the committee did not participate. But I think we have a quorum of individuals present to be able to move forward here. So the 12 responses that we have are all Title IX committee members, but every member of the Title IX committee did not participate.
In the survey?
In the survey, correct.
I did. Oh, I'm sorry, it is right in front of me.
That's the list.
Yes, okay. Okay. Oh, so of those present, we have everybody weighed in. Okay.
So what happens next at this point is that this is the recommendation that will come forward from the Title IX committee, and the board will weigh whatever considerations they need to weigh, um, and they have the last final say. And that is outside our right hands. I definitely appreciate everyone's work. I know this has been a long process, but I appreciate everyone's work in helping getting this survey put together. I think it's really good, and I'm excited. A reminder: this is not the only survey we're going to do. We want to be able to track data over a course of time. So this is not the only one and done survey, but it's a good starting foundation for us to be able to track what's actually going on in our district and for us to see and understand what our students are experiencing at a macro level.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up a little bit more on what Stephanie Walker brought up about the policy on surveys. We are required at the beginning of every school year to put together a list and notify parents of surveys that we plan on doing. So that is another reason to to get this approved and to get us practiced on how to use it so that we are ready for it to go in the notice package for when kids come back to school for the 2020, the 21-22 school year. So we are on track to meet all of those requirements. So our next step with that is now just for Stephanie and I to bring it forward to the whole board, and we'll work with our board chair to get that on the agenda. Hopefully in May, at our first meeting in May, to do that. So we're poised and ready to roll. Thank you again for perseverance and for patience as we just knock this thing out.
Yes, I ditto those sentiments. And so, getting closer to the end of the agenda, I did want to, well, Ms. Craybill want to discuss Title IX community membership. And as we all know, we did participate in the Title IX membership questionnaire the other week. And so we do have those results as well. So they're ready. Ms. Craybill, I'll let you
ready.
have at it.
Pull them on up. I am not a screen share. I am delegating all duties of that sort to Jarrell and Kim. Hang tight. Here we go. Okay, so there really weren't that many questions, on the survey, but it looks like our whole team, with the exception of one, is interested in returning. So Jarrell and Stephanie and I will look at that gap and see if that's something that we need to fill, either from that same agency or the whole category of people, a voice that that person represented. And we do have a good cross section of people that are interested in all of our committees. So it's not like we're going to be top heavy on one. That's always a concern, that everybody always wants to be on one committee. But this list looks really good as far as that membership goes. So going forward from here, if you have any suggestions for questions that we can put together on a new member form, if you want to type them in the chat, or you want to send Jarrell or me or Stephanie an email that suggests those questions. I'm not certain how many more people that we actually do need, but we always want to be prepared if people from the community or from our school system want to participate with us. We want to be able to have a way for them to officially kind of apply or express their interest for that. So that will be, we won't talk about that anymore unless anybody wants to bring something up right this minute, but we'll have something for you on that at our next meeting. And then it might even be related to any of board discussion, because maybe the whole board would have some comments about what the membership might look like, and that kind of stuff. We'll have to put together our presentation for that. So that's really, and then I forgot what the membership parameters were. What was that? I typed it in because I wanted to talk about it, and now I can't think. I'm looking at my own notes, and I can't even remember what that was. Okay. So yeah, so that's, does anybody have any questions or comments about that? Yeah, so Leslie, Jackie, yes, I did get the names, thank you. So we'll make sure that when we get that form developed, that we'll, contact them directly to see if they're interested. And then Leslie, that's what the membership parameters was. What Leslie just said, are there areas of expertise that we feel are missing from our ranks? And that is something that Jarrell and Stephanie and I will also be looking at, and perhaps have something for you at our next meeting. But yeah, good question. Okay. Stephanie Adams, I'm sorry, Stephanie Walker, A to Z. Did you want to add anything?
Too many of us.
I
Too many of
know,
us.
good Lord. Is there anything that you want to add as far as the membership stuff goes, or thoughts
No,
or
I'm just,
questions?
I know as we go, I'm sure that, once we figure out what we want our membership to be, and we've got our 3 subcommittees ready, and whoever wants to be on that, and then we can go from there and really just get into defining, the work that we want to do. It's exciting. I think this is a good change, getting the survey out, and also, people willing to stick with us. And I appreciate that. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. So moving forward with the next piece on the agenda is just a quick update about athletics. I know it has been a while since there has been a district review of Title IX athletic compliance. So that is on the radar. And what we need to do, or what I'm planning to do at this point, is sending out some questionnaires to coaches and athletic directors at the schools, but also trying to look to see about a Title IX athletic audit. We've been having discussions with Alabama, the district athletic director, on how we can best go about a review of our athletic compliance. The way I have it in my mind is that we will review the participation numbers from the last 3 years as an average, excluding this year because it's such an odd year with COVID, to figure out what our current data is when it comes to athletics at each particular school. And then we will have an audit to actually review those treatment processes and that we talked about. And I'm not even sure which meeting it was at this point, but ultimately we do know that there is a need for a Title IX athletics review, and hopefully the majority of that work can be started during the summer, so we can figure out just where we are with athletics. Because I know that community members in public and persons within the district want to know where we are with Title IX athletic compliance.
Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, a few years back, I was on a Title IX review committee when I was still at UNCG. And in addition to looking at the numbers of students participating relative to the percentage of males and females on campus, we also looked at the budget, how the budget was distributed across the male and female sports. And we also looked at things like the quality of equipment, the quality of uniforms, any kind of travel things. Maybe this is on your list, but I heard you just mention participation.
Yeah,
so
no, that's perfect, Jackie, because those are some of the kinds of things that I had in my mind when I was bringing this back up, having worked for years on our booster club, that, the school athletic directors, that's one of their jobs, is to make sure that the booster clubs don't, go nuts on one particular sport or on male sports or female sports. So yeah, and we do have a pretty good checklist already created, through the High School Sports Association, and even using, NCAA, kind of guidelines is that to look at. So that is, we'll be working on putting that together. It's been about 10 years since we really did an in-depth look, and and it's about time to do that. So
in addition to the actual audit, those are those Title IX pieces, the participation opportunities and the treatment that you mentioned, Jackie. In addition to that, um, I will also train our athletic directors at the schools in these areas so that they will be able to self-monitor moving forward to make sure that we're still in compliance with Title IX after we complete our audit.
Yeah, and checklists may come out of that, as well for the same thing. And so coaches will even kind of know, working through there. But yeah, so the more we can keep track of it, and again, I think we would have to be doing a little bit of training and guidance with our booster clubs, and our parent support organizations.
Yeah, and so wrapping up here, looking at the comments, Ms. Cohen and Ms. Jackie asked to make a motion to the Title IX committee, send a motion that the Title IX committee send a message to the board in support of moving ahead on the proposed middle school policy regarding transgender students. Yeah, that was our stance.
Oh,
That was our recommendation to begin with, inclusive policy in that sense. But of course, the proposed regulation bill might impact that, but I agree. I think that we should continue with our stance moving forward,
I,
and let the board make their determinations from there.
I would just like to actively reaffirm that, because I think since that state legislation came forward since the original proposal, that there may be some hesitancy to move ahead in light of that. And I'd just like to make it clear that the Title IX committee feels that we should still move forward.
Right. So I have a motion from Leslie. We don't really do Robert's Rule of Order here,
yeah.
but I have a motion from Ms. Cohen, a second from Jackie. Is there any discussion about the recommendation to provide a statement in support of including moving forward with the policy that we recommended, despite the board of not the board, the state introducing legislation in the interim? There's no discussion. We will make sure that we get that recommendation to the board.
Do we need to, does anybody have any, notice anybody have any opposition to that, just to make sure that we get everybody's voices heard? Okay.
So just not put any, if there are any other comments, so of course you can feel free to email me those as well. So yeah, just want to put that point out there as well.
Okay.
If that's about the end of the substantive pieces that I have on our agenda today. So next we'll go to closing. And Ms. Crable, Ms. Walker.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add right now, because I think I've talked the whole time. So Stephanie Walker, who has not talked the whole time, do you want to add anything for us?
I talked a little bit. I talk when
Yeah.
it needs to talking. Yeah. That's no, I just wanted to just close by saying, acknowledging the tough couple of weeks that we've had, which speaks to how important this committee is to our schools and our students. And I want to thank the leadership of Mr. Lewis and Ms. Crable and all of you who devote your time to this committee and to working on getting our first sexual harassment, gender based harassment climate survey done. And we're going to obviously recommend it to the board, and hopefully we'll be on our way. But I just wanted to acknowledge that. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. And so the last piece is the next meeting. The next meeting is scheduled, of course, third Monday of the month, and that is on May 17th, 2021 from 3 to 4:30. So of course we'll send out the agenda, not the agenda, the calendar invite and the agenda when it comes closer. Until then, let me know if you have any comments, questions through email or calls. I appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll let you know or keep your eyes open for the agenda items, so you'll know if it's on the May meeting. But there shouldn't be any reason why it's not.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.